I'm on. Not on mute.
Oh, I'll tell you what. I watched every video that we've done since that introduction has come into play yesterday, and I laughed a lot all by myself. I started every show. There's like 6 or 7 of them. It's just so stupid to me, and it makes me laugh. But welcome to the show. This is called the Cinema 9 Podcast. We've done 117 of these. This is episode 118. Travis Roy, Eric Brandstrom. And today's Does It Hold Up or Not is called The Cell, a movie from 2000, which apparently I did not watch. So I'm not going to participate in that portion of the show. I'm a fool. It's true. I got no excuses.
You had time to watch the opening of 6 of your own episodes and did not.
Yeah, exactly.
The math.
I just busted myself even more. And I'm going to share some stuff I've watched too. So it's just, you got to make the movie you're going to watch a priority. But I know sometimes you don't want to watch it too early in the week either. Right after
you got to make the podcast a priority.
I do, because I watched a bunch of stuff that I'm excited to talk about, but then I just didn't get the Cell in time, and then whatever, I failed.
No, you're right. You do have to watch it later in the week, though. I always watch it we record Wednesday night, so I watch it Tuesday night, so I've got like 24 hours or so for it to marinate.
Fresh,
but it's fresh. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, whatever. We'll do the show. We're doing the show. We got a Patreon. You can sign up for that. We've got 2 patrons now, right, guys?
We do.
The Palazzo Podcast just signed up. So
Nice. Thank you.
We're really creeping right along at a glacial pace here. It's great, guys.
It's a long game. Like I said, we'll do the show for 30 years if we have to. So who knows where we'll be by then. But for now, we welcome you at cinema9pod at protonmail.com if you want to send us an email. 5-star reviews, all of these things would be wonderful. Eric, you were not here last week, right? Is that true?
I was up in beautiful Michigan's Upper Peninsula. It's God's country. It's so peaceful. And I watched a lot of movies up there, and I'm excited to talk about those and to be back with you gentlemen this evening.
Were they movies that were there that are on VHS that you had like a limited option like last time?
There's no cable up
the
there.
Wolverine cabin?
I watch the same movies every time I go up there, so I'll be talking about those 3 movies.
All right.
It's an annual tradition here on Cinema 9 Podcast. Last week, Travis, we had a guest on, Aaron. He was at work, so sometimes he was busy.
Wow.
He'd step out for a few moments.
We do thank Aaron for coming on. He did a great job despite being on the clock, which was unexpected. But he was in it for hell or high water. He wasn't going to let anything stop him from being on the show. And we talked about
paid
Thor.
more than we did for doing the show.
That's true. Yes. Not really close. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Aaron. We enjoyed it, and we talked about Thor Ragnarok. So if you want to go back and see what we thought about Thor Ragnarok, Eric, would you like to chime in on does it hold up or not for Thor Ragnarok?
I liked it. I figured it'd hold up.
Oh!
It was such a resuscitation for phase 2 or 3 at the time.
3.
So I think it was 2, wasn't it?
No. It was 3.
3.
Anyway.
Oh. Yeah. I'm sure.
Don't ever. Why would you question Travis on that at all? That's insane.
I don't. But
Especially
yeah, a lot of fun. Really good episode. Thank you to Aaron for holding the fort.
Yeah, I didn't know that Taika Waititi was inspired by one of my favorites, as we talked about, Big Trouble in Little China. That's a fun inspiration for that film. So I'm glad. I see it now, too. I see a lot more of it. And I appreciated that episode. It was a lot of fun, Travis. It was a good time. It was good to do a Marvel movie, and it was fun. So
Yeah.
I would. So we've had a couple deaths, and we don't try to be morose here, but we're trying to pay tribute to a life well lived and a careers that were very well lived. And 2 in particular, James Caan passed away last week at age 82. Yeah. What is the definitive for you? Not society, but for you. Do you have a definitive James Caan performance, guys, that you're like, that's my favorite? I love that one.
Misery. For me. Yeah, for me it's Misery. I mean, like he's very restricted in that. So he really and a lot of times people talk about Kathy Bates in that movie, but she's not doing anything without what he's given her. And he's great in that. I think it's a performance of his. It's the performance of his career. It's also the movie that introduced me to him. Like as a kid, it came out right around it was like '89 or so, right when I was starting to get really conscious about like movies that were for adults. And
1990. Yep.
Yeah, 1990. So I grew up watching that one a lot, and and that's the one for me. Thanks, Jimmy.
That's very nice. Eric, you gonna go with the classic, or you got something else?
No, I'm with Travis, man. Misery brought me to the table, and every time I watch it, I'm always so struck at what he's able to do without his mobility. He conveys fear, anger is my best in that, because to portray anger when you can't do anything but what he has access to is unbelievable. I love him in Misery, man. And The Godfather came along, and I mean Thief says it all for me. I think that's his best performance by far.
Yeah, you talked about that in the show a while back, and I tried to find it, and I couldn't find it. I really want to see it because it's a Michael Mann movie who I really enjoy, and that's one I can't comment on. There's actually a few Caan movies I haven't seen, so I can't comment on all of his.
Be up there for sure.
Yeah, that's another one.
What's the one for you, Mike?
Yeah, for me, it's not he's not the main character, but in Bottle Rocket, he's fun. He's just having a good time.
Yeah,
that's what I never saw I actually never saw the Godfather movies till I was like 20 something. I'd heard all about it, but I never actually saw them. So I'm not one of these like super hardcore Godfather guys. So for me, Bottle Rocket was a movie that I grew up on, and I was like, oh, this guy's fun. And he's actually really funny in that movie too, with his one-liners and bits where he's doing the karate. he's like, no, move back. It's so weird. It's so bizarre and so goofy, but yeah, that'll be the one for me.
You know what's funny is movies only so many like rise to the cream of the crop as decades go on. Like we don't go back to the 30s much, right? Each decade has like the movies that are really stand out, and whether they're the best or not, they're the ones that get remembered. And James Caan will always be, I think, a fixture in American culture for The Godfather and for Elf. I don't think those movies are going anywhere in America's collective memory anytime soon, and I think they're two legendary classics for better or for worse. Again, I love both those movies, Elf far more than The Godfather, admittedly. But yeah, absolutely. But yeah, American classics and a classic American actor. We're seeing the slow and steady parade off the cliff of some of America's greatest legends, and it's hard to watch, but we always knew it was coming. But yeah,
especially these tough guys. I mean, they're going away fast. I mean, just these gruff, macho for what they are, like tough screen idols. Like Burt Lancaster is done. Burt Reynolds is out of here. With Jimmy Caan's passing, we're running out of just like honest to God, like blue collar tough guys.
Like Tony Sirico, who we also lost this week. Classic. I mean, we don't have to get into him yet, unless you guys want. If you guys,
no, please. That's fine. While we're talking segue, Travis.
While we're talking tough guys, I mean, this is a guy that actually started like as muscle. Like he would go into bars and restaurants and clubs and fuck shit up until they paid him to leave. And he was like, he was basically mobster, and he was adjacent to that kind of stuff, but was still like plugged into the scene. He was like friends with Andy Warhol and like all of these people like back in the day. He was like, he lived this wild fucking life. Flash forward many decades, and he's working with Woody Allen in movie after movie after movie. He's in like 5 or 6 Woody Allen movies. And then of course, Paulie Walnuts. I mean, talk about cemented into American collective memory. I don't think Sopranos is going anywhere anytime soon either. His performance as Paulie Walnuts it's for the books. It's one for the books.
Absolutely. You said it quite well, my friend. Yep.
Of course.
Anything to add?
Also starred in Mickey Blue Eyes with Jimmy Caan, if you remember.
Yeah, also, R. Right. Fair here says, don't forget Brian's song, which for a lot of sports movie lovers, Brian's song, James Caan, based on the true story of Brian Piccolo, who died at a very young age of cancer. So,
is that the guys that are like running?
haven't
Running.
seen that one.
Yeah, they're friends running together, and there's something about mashed potatoes later while he's dying. It's very
potatoes
sad.
and running.
A lot of men who never shared feelings in public have admitted to crying to that film during
Wept for that movie.
Over a
Yes,
bowl
they
of
did.
mashed
We
potatoes.
should give a shout out to LQ Jones too, from the Wild
Yeah,
Bunch,
yeah.
from The Edge. This guy lived into his 90s. It was a fixture in classic cinema. Shout out, thank you, LQ Jones, for your work also.
Yeah.
Thank you, LQ.
Yeah,
Hell yeah. Well,
Been
hey,
some-
you know,
been some
society.
deaths. Society has deaths.
It
Society.
does. They're going to keep coming, guys. Just be prepared for them. And, I still haven't. Gene Hackman's still alive. So when that happens, I'm going to be really torn up. So
Oh, yeah? Yeah. When Nicholson goes, I'll probably take the day off and ruminate.
You'll be in your chambers when Nicholson goes.
I'll be in my
Another seance like I am right now.
I don't know why that was so funny, but it was. Okay, well, movies that you watched. We called them originally quarantine viewing picks because we started the show during what was called a pandemic. There was some disease known as COVID-19, but we're going to keep that name because it'll remind us of where we started. This is all going back to April 2020, where it all began. I'm Casey Kasem. All right, Travis, what have you been watching recently?
I watched some stuff. I watched Thor: Love and Thunder, for instance, as promised in the last episode. You didn't go? You had a week?
I'm so excited, dude.
You
I mean,
must
I
be.
couldn't watch The Cell. I couldn't watch Thor: Love and Thunder. So I am jonesing. I'm trying to see. I tried to sneak it in last night. I'm like, okay, it's 10:30. There was one more showing at 11 o'clock at night at the Imagine over in Canton, and I didn't get there. So
You're a busy
I'm really
man.
excited.
You're a busy man.
I'm a moron. I'm just a moron.
People are, this movie's kind of getting met similarly to Eternals and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. It's kind of a middling response from people. I personally really enjoyed it. If I have to, I don't want to compare it to Thor Ragnarok, but it's kind of hard not to. And I didn't. It didn't blow me away the same way that Ragnarok did. But I loved it. I laughed and cried, and I enjoyed it, and I was into it. So make up your own mind. I will say this, that like it seems like it might be getting review bombed some because of some comments that Taika Waititi made about like him being a gay icon now. There's some gay stuff in the movie. Some people are fucking homophobes and can't handle reality, the realities of existence. But I thought it was great. I watched another movie from 2022 that underwhelmed me that had good reviews. That's The Bad Guys, new animated film. I love Mark Maron so much. He's one of him and what's his nuts? I'm a big fan of
Sam
from
Rockwell.
Moon. Sam Rockwell, yeah.
Sam Rockwell.
Rockwell. They're like the main people in this, and it was okay. It was good. There's questionable use of guinea pigs in the film. I didn't care for that.
Oh boy.
Revisited Shang-Chi because we talked about that last week. That's still great. And revisited, there's a movie I've seen quite a few times that, again, kind of has middling reviews, but I've always liked it, even though it feels very 2011 when it came out. There's one point where characters talking about like Netflix, but he's talking about discs like on his table. But I'm talking about the movie 30 Minutes or Less. I enjoy all the Eisenberg comedies when you get down to it for me, and 30 Minutes or Less holds up pretty good. I think it's kind of an unconventional film that blows by in a fun way. I hadn't seen The Sting since I was a kid, and it was basically like watching it for the first time, more or less. And yeah, it's good. It's good. I think at this point, like you can kind of tell. I mean, I know the way. How can I put this? Film working has progressed to the point now that people have borrowed enough from The Sting that none of the twists surprise me because I could see them coming. You know what I mean? But I'm sure it was very. I get why it's a classic, and as it rightly should be.
Is that Chad's favorite movie?
I know it's a few people's favorite movie. I don't know if it's Chad's.
It's got to be up there for him. It's close. I felt like. So. Eric,
is
that true? Did I make that
Your
up?
movie is, I believe, Raiders of the Lost Ark, but I believe The Sting is up there.
Yeah. Okay.
Little Women from 1994. I went to West Virginia. I went to West Virginia and spent my mom's birthday with her. So it was me, my mom, my nana, my sister, and my niece. We all sat down together to watch the 1994 version of Little Women. It was fucking great. I loved it.
A VHS?
No, not on VHS. We actually had to. We wanted to watch the 2019 version, but it's not available for rent anywhere. You have to buy it. It's weird. It's from 2019, but it's like not
Must
available.
be a weird
anywhere.
story behind that. Yeah.
Yeah, there must be some battling for the rights somewhere or something, because that version's great. But I liked the Whitney, or what's her name, Winona Ryder version. It was fun. And then of course I watched The Cell.
What is it called?
The Cell. I watched The Cell. I took time out of my life. I sat down with a piece of paper. I actually did some research after the fact and read about it, learned some things.
I deserve all of that. Yeah, bring it on. That's fair is fair. No doubt about it. All right, Eric. So give us that VHS rundown from up north.
Okay, so the cabin trifecta when I go up north every year is Gran Torino, Uncle Buck, and Cool Hand Luke. All three of them. I've watched all three of them every year.
Is a VHS copy
dude.
of Gran Torino in there?
No, these are all DVDs.
Oh, DVDs.
Yeah, they're
But
DVDs.
yeah. I just can't get sick of these movies. It's impossible. What else can you say?
I've never seen Cool Hand Luke, by the way. I've never seen it.
Oh, it's great.
That's unbelievable.
I know, but I kind of feel like I've seen it now because it's so old and I've heard so much about it in a way.
Well, you loved Brubaker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Stuart Rosenberg, like his big bang was with Cool Hand Luke, so that's a must. You have to see it.
Oh man,
It's just so weird.
Imagine sitting down to watch both those movies back to back for the first time. Someone
That'd
should
be
do that.
unbelievable. Yeah.
Maybe I'll watch The Cell too. Make it a trifecta.
We'll get your comments next week.
I was debating this. I was wrestling with this all week. Do I admit this and risk losing some followers, or do I have to be honest with my heart and come out with it?
Oh my god.
I'm gonna come out with it in a new segment I call "There I Said It." Okay.
Okay.
The Goonies. Okay. I know what you're thinking. Like, I grew up on the Goonies. You get on your bike, go on an adventure. I'm sorry, dude. Every time I watch this movie, I'm so irritated. It's so loud and just annoying, and it's directed so piss poorly, and everyone's just fucking screaming, and it's just so chopped up, and the direction by Dick Donner sucks, and all the kids are just fucking so cliched and noisy, and I don't care for the film.
I've heard this opinion more and more lately. I guess I need to revisit it, because I know that it's kind of seems like it's slipping in its status in our culture.
Yeah, I guess so. Huh.
Okay.
Watch anything else?
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Revisited Turning Red. Loved it even more the second time. It's fantastic. Okay, here's a big one. Mike, you're going to like this one. House of Gucci?
Oh, yeah.
How was it? I forgot that was
I
streaming.
liked it. Yeah, I liked it. It's long as fuck.
Yeah,
it's
partly
long
why.
as fuck, and it feels much, much longer than it is.
You're selling me.
I liked
And
it.
the script is awful, but the acting is so good, and it's shot so beautifully.
Lady Gaga, pretty good, huh?
Yeah, she's fucking fat. Jeremy Irons was fucking fantastic in it.
Yeah, I love Jeremy Irons.
Yeah, he
He's
might
still
even been the
alive.
treasure in it.
The
Yeah.
man's a
He's
treasure.
making films, Jeremy Irons.
Yeah, he might not. Jared Leto was making me laugh out loud at like 1 a.m, waking my whole fucking house up. It's a must see. It's so bonkers. It's out of this world. It's hilarious.
It's like the Penguin, man. I didn't know it was him till the end. I really didn't know, dude. It's unbelievable. One of these makeup jobs, and he's so. I'm like, is this? Because I think I mentioned this when I talked about the movie, the caricature of an Italian human being in a movie.
Yep.
But
yep. It's
I don't know.
Episode 8, 118.
It was-
The
yeah.
cell. No,
There
does
are-
it to hold it up. Like that level stereotype.
People talk like that though, like because I look real quickly. We are renting a house from a true Italian human being from Italy in Windsor, and the accent is thick, so that accent does come through. And I've never been to Italy, so I don't truly know a lot about it other than that. But it's interesting.
It's like one of the funniest comedic performances I've seen in years. It's actually kind of a tragic figure, but it's such an odd movie. Like it dips its toe into like camp, but like not enough to like make the whole movie like cohesive. Like it either needs to like be campy as fuck, like something like the People versus O.J. Simpson, the fucking great miniseries, where that was just straight camp and knew how dumb it was and was having fun. Yeah. This kind of tries to do it both ways, where it's like the serious, hard-hitting, melodramatic, epic biopic. Also, this really fucking stupid comedy. But overall, entertaining as hell. Great performances.
Looks incredible, too. Very, very well done on this, like, setting the period of the Gucci lifestyle in the 80s and all that. It looks really good.
It really, in like, movie about like clothes. I watch any fashion designer movie. I've talked about this in the past, but like to get you interested in like business politics is fucking tricky. But they do really get you into the dynasty of the family and the nature, the trading, like or trading the hands of the organization.
Al Pacino's terrible.
So good.
I thought he was terrible in this movie, but that's just my opinion.
Incredible. Yeah. I dug it, man. That's about it.
Okay, there it is. House of Gucci. So, I didn't watch The Cell, as we know, but I did
7 days.
Really dig up. It's been 7 days, and that's why I was able to catch up big time on what's going on with the MCU from the TV side, you know? So, I saw Hawkeye. And
what'd you think?
It's solid. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, I didn't like
solid Marvel.
Yeah, it's solid Marvel. It's fine. It's rock solid. You know, I think I kind of like the Ronan character more than Hawkeye, which is maybe want some
same
more
person.
Yeah, I know. I just like the whole getup is different, and like the mystery and the chaos. I kind of dig that more, but yeah, I think so. Yeah, probably maybe that's what it is. But I like lighthearted stuff too. It was a Christmas themed show too, so you know, fired up during the holidays and watch people fight a lot during the holidays. It was rock solid. I'll give it a rock solid score. So it's not often we are just dumped upon with repetitive IP that we've seen. We know the story, we know the origin stories, but Moon Knight is a whole new thing for me. And what a fucking pleasure it was, man. This show was awesome. I fucking loved it. And Oscar Isaac, he like legitimately gives like an Oscar-worthy performance playing Moon Knight.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
He should. I hope he gets. I mean, like I wasn't in love with the show because I wanted more Moon Knight, but his performance.
Yes.
I sincerely hope that like he should get nominated for an Emmy. Oh, actually, the Emmys nominees got announced today. I meant to talk about that, but we'll brush up on maybe.
I hope he got nominated because he deserves it.
I didn't check. He's amazing in it.
Incredible. Yeah. Yes. And yeah, there should be more Moon Knight. Yeah, I'm with you there, but it was just refreshing to like go through a story I didn't know anything about. I really had to pay attention and I'm like, oh, what's this? What's that? It's just nice to have that feeling again, which doesn't always happen because at my age, you know, I've seen the X-Men and I know a lot of those characters and I know all their stories and this is different for me. So I really dug it and I strongly recommend, even if you're like Moon Knight, what the hell is that? Like, if you want something fresh, go, because there's some really good quality performances, a lot of visuals and fighting scenes and all kinds of stuff and history stuff of like some of that, you know, Egyptian historical stuff that's also mythical with the gods and pharaohs and all that stuff. It's interesting, very entertaining.
The last episode of Miss Marvel dropped today, and that was a good series too. It wasn't. I mean, it's not my favorite of all the series, but it was solid.
Well, that's next. I'll be moving on to that next. That'll be fun. Let's see. I got some other movies. I guess it took a while to watch those two shows. It does take some effort.
You had to watch like 6 hours of things a piece instead of
that's 12 hours of that's a lot of time in a week. So yeah, I guess that's it for now. I do have some fun movies that I will report on next time that I'm excited, including Hustle. And I'm going to report on Father Stu next week. I'm actually really excited to see Father Stu. Okay. I know Mel Gibson gets shit on. He's made some mistakes in his life, but he makes interesting, fascinating, raw entertainment that I'm still drawn to.
I've been waiting for you to watch Hustle. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I definitely will watch that when I watch The Cell. I'll do a triple. Which one?
I haven't had time to get to theaters. I mean, I did for Thor, but yeah, I need to see the Black Phone.
Friday, it's hitting digital.
Oh, really? Well, in that case,
trigger.
Yeah. If it's coming that soon, then I guess I won't. And now I feel bad, but they'll live without my $14. Yeah, Scott Derrickson's new horror film with Mr. Ethan Hawke. Looking forward to that Joe Hill story.
Joe Hill.
Yeah,
Well, Ethan Hawke was awesome in Moon Knight too, by the way.
I loved him in it. Yeah.
I love it. I just realized how much more I loved it because I thought of Ethan Hawke. Okay, that's it. That's what I watched. I guess I'm going to have to part ways now because...
Dude.
Wait, did you watch The Boys yet? The last episode of that dropped too.
I have never seen any of The Boys.
Oh, you haven't?
I want to see it, but I have not...
For some reason, I thought you were a huge fan because it just seems like something you'd be a huge fan of, I guess.
I really want to. It does
good.
seem cool. I do need to watch it.
All right, are you leaving us now?
The Harsh Truth rule said. Yeah, we got a comment from the Harsh Truth.
Miss Marvel was a fun show to watch. WandaVision was still the best, though. I have to give it up to Loki, personally. I think Loki was the best, but WandaVision is probably my second favorite.
That's tough. Interesting. Okay. So now, don't forget, 5-star reviews would be wonderful. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're almost a couple away from 300 subs. We've made a nice little push again. I assume Eric's been doing some groundwork. Good job, Eric. You're a good boy.
If you really want to help us
I'm not
out,
supposed to say that. I'm not supposed to say that. Sorry. I just called him a good boy.
We're not dogs. If you really want to help us out, tell a friend. Recommend it to somebody that you think would like us. We'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mike, you're never, ever, ever going to watch this movie. Like, you don't have to leave. Like, you're seriously worried about this getting spoiled?
No, because it's got Vince Vaughn in it, Vincent D'Onofrio. I really like them as actors. I do want to watch this. That's why I brought it up. I was like, I'll let you guys make the call here. I blew it, so I don't want to mess with your guys' schedules, but I do. Is it on? By the way, did you guys find it somewhere?
I had to rent it.
Yeah, I rent it.
Shit. Okay. Well,
I've gotten to where I'm only picking movies that are streaming.
I noticed that. Yeah, I do appreciate that. That's very kind of you, but I don't want to get pigeonholed either. So yeah, I'm going to bow out now as we rotate into Does It Hold Up or Not? Today's main feature known as The Cell. But I will be back at the end of the show to reveal next week's selection. So
go hide in a box and pop out later.
Go watch The Cell.
Run away. Diddle-oo, 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 diddle-oo. Am I leaving? Wait, can I leave? Can I leave and the broadcast will stay? I'm just going to close this window. Bye.
Close the window. All right. We're still live. We're still here.
There he goes. Yeah, we're going to talk horror. So not exactly Mike's wheelhouse anyway, but it's definitely ours. There's no doubt about that.
I didn't even think of it as horror.
No shit.
I don't think of it as horror. I mean, it's more, it's very visual, but to me, it's horror like Silence of the Lambs is horror, I guess.
Test No Crank didn't send you over the genre edge there?
I mean, that could be in any kind of movie. Like Sicario or something like that could have something violent like that happening in it. And I wouldn't necessarily think, that this is a horror movie. Someone's guts are out. I don't know. But you remember when you first saw The Cell?
Yeah. And the show Chad was favorable enough to chime into our Facebook page, which you can connect with us on. And he was talking about how the trailer sold him on The Cell. Yes. And dude, that's what got me and Chad in theaters twice at Star Southfield to see this back in 2000, man. The trailers were out of control. We had never seen anything like this. Like, who the hell is Tarsum? Like, one name? Just this one guy, Tarsum. And it's like this artistic, horror-looking, fucked-up movie starring these incredible actors. We were there opening night, dude. It was unforgettable.
Yeah, I don't know that I was opening night, but it was the theaters. I mean, the preview certainly got me in the theater as well. I caught that one in the theaters and loved it. I mean, I've always been a big Vincent D'Onofrio fan since Full Metal Jacket growing up, and everything else that he's done. So I was seeing him in just the shots and the previews, like this God character that he plays. Yes. I was very on board. I didn't know until today that Tarsum directed the Losing My Religion video, and that's basically what got him.
Isn't that funny?
His start. Yeah, which now watching the movie. Well, I mean, I knew it before I watched the movie, so I didn't know it until I guess a couple days.
Surprised when they're on the same set.
Yeah, I'm like watching. I'm like, I see it. I really see it. I can see. Yeah. And I watched the video today. I'm like, yeah, I can. It's him. Definitely
but it was
him.
such a dude. It's one of those theater experiences I'll never forget because. Especially in horror, man, you don't get the same experience as you do in other genres. When you watch a movie of this nature with scenes of horrific, graphic violence, it's very rare where like the whole theater is all just like cringing and like aghast and like vocally. Like I remember this day, like literally gasps and like cries and stuff when like some of those really fucked up scenes were going on, and that kind of residue sticks with you, man. So yeah, that was something. It's just so different.
Yeah, there hadn't been a film quite like it before, but at the same time, we'll talk about how unique and original it actually is as we get deeper.
Oh yes, we will.
Into our chat
Yes,
here.
we will.
I didn't check the IMDb score. Did you happen to check it?
No, I didn't.
What do you think?
6.4.
I think you're in the right vein with the sixes. I think it's going to be higher than that, though. I'm going to say 6.8. Let's see.
Okay.
Survey says 6.4. Give this man
Wow. Yeah, I swear I didn't look.
a gut weave thing to crank. Anyways, yeah, 6.4.
6.4.
40 on the Metascore. That's low. Roger Ebert gave it 2 thumbs up. Said it's one of the best films of the year.
Isn't that something?
That is something.
That is, yeah. That's odd because
they didn't fall in line with him on that one.
God bless him. Yeah. Eviscerated by critics. Yeah, I think the Rotten Tomatoes score, the critic consensus is in the 40s, if I'm remembering my brief glance at it.
Lou Lumenick from the New York Post said a generic variation on the overworked serial killer trope, I'm guessing, or genre. It just kind of trails up. Which that's not wrong. I mean,
no.
Vincent D'Onofrio read the script and wasn't going to do it until he talked to Tarsem and learned all of the visual kind of stuff that he wanted to do. And that's what got him on board, because frankly, this movie, every time, and I've always thought this since I first saw adaptation back in 2004 or whatever, that when they're making fun of the 3, that this is like literally what they have in mind.
Yeah.
Like I think Charlie Kaufman was making fun of this movie specifically.
The deconstructionist.
The deconstructionist.
And that like archetypal like serial killer with like a thing, like the late 90s, the Bone Collector, taking lives. We had all these like serial killers that had like this, this
Silence of the Lambs, even
whatever you want to call it, this caveat to them, like that they did something
like
truly,
they were super
like,
villains.
interesting. Like, it was starting to get a little tired then. And I mean, 2000, dude, like we're still in like that Kevin Williamson like teen slasher meta type of horror thing too. So we have that, and we have just these piss poor mid-level thrillers like Taking Lives just getting churned out. I
liked Taking Lives.
What?
I liked Taking Lives. That was an early wasn't that early Paul Dano? I believe that was a early showcase.
I know
for
what
him.
You're thinking, because I just watched it.
Or Ryan Gosling. Was it?
You're thinking of Murder by Numbers.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Murder by Numbers.
I like that one.
That one was good. Taking Lives, I don't remember that. I'm thinking of Murder by Numbers.
But yeah, a lot of movies of that fare. That's why that trailer, it's like a movie like this that like looks beautiful. What the fuck's going on here? These are supposed to like be grimy trash. Like very bizarre.
Yeah.
Anybody like it in the critics?
Let me look again here. Sean Levy from the Portland Oregonian said something of an unforgettable experience. Sure. I think there's some merit in that.
Yeah.
And then it quickly dips into some pretty unhappy Kenneth Turin. Turin at the Los Angeles Times said some movies make you sorry you've seen them, and The Cell is one of those. Creepy and horrific. It's a torture chamber film. Which when was Hostel? When like I
think it was 04.
Yeah, like things were starting to kind of. You're right. Like the state of horror got kind of weird. There's a lot of CGI crap happening at the time, Underworld and that kind of stuff. So this was, if you were familiar with what is heavily borrowed in this film, the stuff that Tarsem Singh borrows from,
stolen.
Well, okay, is it stolen or is it borrowed? Because
it's stolen.
Yeah, but you know who I thought about watching this movie, or what movie I thought about? I thought about Kill Bill. I thought about Kill Bill watching this movie, because I remember the first time I saw Kill Bill, I was blown away and then after the fact started, learning about all of the homages, quote unquote, that were being paid, and like seeing like some side by side comparisons. I'm like, oh, it looks like the exact same fucking movie. This is a regurgitation of a bunch of different films, and I love Kill Bill. Don't get me wrong, I do, but I don't see a world of difference between what's done with that and what's done here.
Yeah,
I
definitely do.
Why?
Go ahead, keep going. Well, with something like Kill Bill, you get a lot of stolen technique, like with the bride coming out of the desert. That's Once Upon a Time in the West, one of the best shots of all time. With this, when they're taking Damien Hirst, the horse shit, everyone knows that, and what they're doing is they're taking somebody's art and then they're putting their own representation on what that is and what's to be implied of it. In this case, the mind of someone who's psychopathic and deals with murder. I'm not sure that's right to place that examination on it for other people to look at it as, when you have the same thing.
I'm not comfortable with anyone taking someone's art and presenting it as their own. That's plagiarism. I don't care for that. I think it's not good. At the same time, though, I do think it's a little bit established in the movie that you see Carl Strager's like his bedroom. There's art everywhere. There's old Caravaggio and like all this kind of stuff all over the place, and that's what's feeding his psyche. I mean, he's a lover of art and opera and that kind of stuff. Weirdly enough, and I again, I don't think that excuses like the fact that clearly Tarsem would expect his audience to be familiar with some of the stuff, but not a lot of it. But where it breaks down is not for me when it stops being homage and stops being inspired by it is when we get into the Mark Romanek connection.
Yikes! Here we go.
Then it starts to be to me like, okay, this is just stolen. This is just, you really like the Perfect Drug video. You really like the video for Closer. You really like the video for Madonna's Bedtime Stories, and you've just reworked it. And I like Mark Romanek too, but I'm not. Go ahead.
You can see Tarsem Singh walking into like New Line Studios and being like, everyone's seen Silence of the Lambs, but then he like turns on MTV and there's Closer, the video, and him being like, but what if like this was inside Hannibal Lecter's mind? Like, no, and they're like, oh, that'd be interesting. And he's like, no, literally this. Like, I just filmed this, and then I put it into a serial killer movie, and they go ballistic. Yeah, it's aping. It's in my opinion, it's just very manipulative for a young audience member like me who came out of the theater so inspired by this new vision, and to find out that it's just such a facsimile, it sucks.
So the Losing My Religion video, that I think inspired Romanek in some ways from what I could see, possibly. I wouldn't be surprised anyways. That's speculation, but I could see that. But even early in his career, Singh was borrowing from Indian, because he's from Punjab, the region of India. And he grew up on a whole other set of Bollywood films and that kind of stuff, and Russian films as well. I know that he's drawing heavily from some Tarkovsky stuff, particularly for Losing My Religion. So he is still doing this blending of stuff together, and I'm just kind of torn on how I feel about it, because part of me is like, this is what everyone's doing. He's just doing it more blatantly and more obviously. But Scorsese and all these other directors often are, paying homage. You watch any director's commentary, they're going to be like, oh, I got this shot from this. I got this shot from this. If they're honest directors anyway, a lot of times that's what's going on anyways. But you're right. It's usually more of an issue of procedure of how it's done as opposed to the exact imagery. Like, to me, I was disappointed to learn that, and that's the word, disappointed, that I thought the best visual imagery in the movie were the three women like with their mouths agape staring at the sky, and that's Odd Nerdrum, it turns out, a Norwegian artist. And it's like, oh, and they're still alive. Like, he's like Damien Hirst and Odd Nerdrum, like these, like he's aping people that are still very much alive and actively making new work and stuff.
And I imagine
interesting.
Nerd, I'm like watching this movie and being like, when I painted that, my intention was not to, talk about fucked up mothers that mistreat you and abuse their own children or whatever he was going for there. It's like that parallel it's a problem. But like at the end of the day, it's like whatever works to get your story across. And this definitely worked on everybody. That's all anyone talks about. Like we're not going to get out of this episode without saying visually arresting. It's just impossible. Because that's all anyone talks about is these incredible visuals. Dreams have never really been expressed quite like this, maybe outside of like, some old French films, like Jean Valjean films or whatever, but like, it's just very otherworldly.
Well, and that's very much why I was just really disappointed that Mike couldn't join us today, because Mike hates movies that are dreams. He hates like that kind of stuff. So as I was watching the movie, I'm like, is there a movie more suited for Mike to hate? Probably not. You mentioned child abuse. We talked about this with Frailty. There is some really disturbing child abuse taking place in this film too, where it's like, I could watch you murder someone. I could watch you, I guess, ejaculate on a corpse as you're suspended from above it, which I'm glad we didn't see the original cut of that, because I hear it's horrific. But like the whole iron on the kid and all that shit, like, oh man, that stuff was really hard to watch.
For two reasons. One, it's excessive, and two,
it's indulgent.
It's yet another excuse for this type of behavior that is starting to get a little old. Vince Vaughn, his character has so many problems, but he hints at the fact that, look, this doesn't always lead to serial killers. But
I've always
especially
liked that.
In the 90s, they just kept at it like, oh, it's about abuse from childhood. Yeah. And that's really the only card they have throughout this whole film to make Carl turn into what he is.
They do worse than that, because it's schizophrenia. It's all, the whole thing is about him being schizophrenic, which schizophrenia, as anybody that's looked into it knows, you are 10 times more likely to be a victim of violent crime than the perpetuator of it. If you're schizophrenic, it's a horrible disease. But and so it relies on those two really tired tropes.
Yeah,
I've always liked that Vince Vaughn's character, he hints with his 5 o'clock shadow that the character hints that he himself was abused as a kid, and this is why he pursues these kinds of people. He started as a DA or whatever, and then got into going directly for them or after them as an FBI agent. So I always really liked that. But yeah, I don't like that it leans on those two kind of tried and true tropes, because I think that the reality is that people that do stuff like this, like our country keeps defining every mass murderer as mentally ill, as if the action suggests mental illness. Like, no, you have to like plot this shit out. This wasn't like a wild act. You might be disturbed. You might be, depressed and that kind of stuff, and sociopathic even. But yeah, it was just. Anyway.
And it's not only that, dude. Like the fucking script, which I guess Mark Prodovesich, his script, was just eviscerated in like early pre-production. He disowned the film because it looks so unlike his original story. But it also has the balls to create a syndrome, Wayland's infraction, that's not even real, just as for this plot device to get underway. Are you fucking kidding me here? You're gonna give us this diluted, almost offensive depiction of schizophrenia, and then you're gonna tack on this bullshit Wayland's infraction that's not even a thing, just so you can like have him comatose. What is this?
I'm glad you looked into that, because I didn't think to, but as I was watching the movie, I'm like, I didn't know that you could go comatose if you're a schizophrenic. No,
and it's triggered by water. That's not a thing.
I knew that part was bullshit. I'm savvy enough to have been like, well, that's obviously bullshit.
Come on, dude.
I think we have to talk about, if we're going to be talking about all of the visuals, though, there's an unsung hero here, and that's Eiko Ishioka, the costume designer. She was Academy Award winning for Bram Stoker's Dracula. She didn't do a ton of other stuff except for like every Tarsem Singh movie, apparently, except for Selfless, because that was after she had passed. She passed in 2012. But I think that the costumes in this movie, rarely am I like, really, I'm into this for the costumes with a movie, but that's kind of the main. There's two selling points for me in this movie. It's the costumes, and of course, as we'll talk about, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Would you wear one of those Twizzler suits to a Halloween party?
I would, afraid that people would think, oh, you like an Inside Out man? Are you skinless? I would wear that before I would have crafted hair horns and paint my face white.
Yeah, man. It's unreal. It's just so good. It's definitely the highlight.
What is the best version of Vince Vaughn's character, or
Oh man,
Carl Strager as the God character? Which version do you like? As the God? Yeah, like, because we have him like the royal version of him with that giant cape. We have like this weird alligator version towards the end.
No, my favorite's the Inquisitor, the Roman torture, whatever the fuck he's supposed to be. That's just such a cool ass outfit. That'd be an awesome Halloween costume.
Oh my god!
It's
when
so
his blood, when he's gleefully clapping his hands together, covered in blood, that is the best moment in the entire fucking movie. His eyes are all white. Oh,
it's so weird. And yet I laugh because, oh my god, that's the thing. I'm watching it and I'm still freaked out. And that's the moment I was talking about in the theater, when the audience was just like, the air went out of the room and people were fucking losing their shit. I'm watching it. Vince Vaughn he's literally experiencing this intestinal crank. Okay. Like, he feels the pain. It's happening. Right. He's fucking freaked out. And yet this isn't going to make him change careers. Like, being an attorney and losing a case is going to make him become an FBI agent. But like, after this, he's still going to be a cop and not go work at Wendy's. What the fuck? Well, yeah, incredible. Fucking incredible. All the costumes, like all the gods, it's cool.
Well, it's a perfect marriage of set design, costume design, and performance, because what Vincent D'Onofrio does here is just, I mean, it's unreal. It's not human. It's like,
yeah, right.
You can so see the Carl Strager, like, regular man that he is. And then when he plays the God character, it's just like, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to think of more. It's an amazing performance. I mean, I cannot think of anything else like it when it comes to a visual performance. It's incredible. It is incredible.
His walk. One of the weirdest parts is when he fucking snatches up the young Carl and does like this weird little dance trot. It's like something like made out of like Alighieri paintings or some weird ass shit. It really gets into your bones how bizarre it is.
Yeah. So he has a playground that, yes, is heavily borrowed from the video for Closer, like Jesus. With the fucking crank opening up and then the women and all that stuff, like, you know, which is a really disturbing scene. But like there's so much. It's these vignettes, these tableaus, whatever. They're all like, not all, but mostly borrowed from something. But the way that you get to experience the joy that Vincent D'Onofrio clearly has making this movie it's a hell of a thing to watch.
But is it a good thing that we end up kind of sympathizing with such a horrific monster by the end of the film?
I do think that, like, I mean, again, the character is schizophrenic, so he cannot help what he's become, even if it's a terrible depiction of schizophrenia. I think that it's hard not to feel sympathetic for someone who cannot help that, right? It's hard not to feel sympathetic for someone who, you know, was abused severely. I don't know, man. It's tricky.
I think without the scene of kind of what I'll call regular older Carl talking with what's her name now?
Catherine, Jennifer Lopez's character,
the woman that walks around in pretty costumes.
Catherine.
Yeah, without that conversation at the tub where we kind of we do kind of see him out of control, like you know what I mean, like possessed by this urge. Without that, I think you run the risk of deifying a demon, which would be very tricky. But yeah, I think that's why they went to D'Onofrio, because he really had to sell the kind of tragic area of such a beast, and it works. I'm not really sure it's cool for them to just kill their suspect, but they do. And, it could be a problem.
Well, they don't. Catherine does.
Yeah.
She's not working for the FBI. She's an independent contractor. But I do really like that the movie, the crescendo of the film is one character being saved from drowning, and that person's, the victimizer of that person being saved by drowning is by being killed by drowning at the same time. It's an interesting juxtaposition.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
That is cool. Less cool is probably going to be everything besides Vince Vaughn's monologue about his childhood. This character is straight out of like NCIS, like light. It's so cliche. Pot boiling, chain smoking, up all night, cop.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me with this character?
And not selling it really. I'm like you went to law school and became a DA, and how fucking old are you, dude? You're like 30 here tops. Like what's like happening?
28.
Yeah.
You're telling me that you are going to research every albino German Shepherd dog owner in the state, but you're not going to research that fucking like hoist table with a gigantic insignia on it?
An insignia that is featured in Bedtime Stories video by Mark Romanek, by the way. I'm pretty sure it's the same.
Fucking with me.
Pretty sure it's the same symbol.
But yeah, it had a fucking address on it and everything. It might as well came with some MapQuest pages.
That's a good point. The dog is not albino, for the record. Albinos have pink eyes. Bugged me through the whole fucking movie. That's just a white husky. Anyway,
but it is complicit in murder. He fucking trained it how to pretend like it gets hit by a car. Fuck that. It
makes me feel bad for the dog though, because the dog doesn't know what the fuck's going on. The dog is just obeying its owner. That is one of the things watching that where I actually like worry that people like would get ideas like, oh, we put a cinder block underneath the car and then you train a dog to, like, I'm like, oh god, what if someone got an idea? You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things with art sometimes. Like, oh, this might inspire somebody in the worst possible way. This is too clever in an evil way. Yeah. But yeah, what can you do? I guess that's one of that's always
that. Not do that, I guess.
Yeah, be able to watch film without internalizing it.
My favorite shot in the movie by far is the black dog shaking itself off by the bloody tub.
That is awesome.
Unfucking believable. But is that supposed to be like another version of Valentine?
I don't know, but I don't think that that's borrowed from anything, and it is one of the most visually striking moments in the film. Although for me, my favorite shot is by far the camera coming out of the water during the baptism and rising up and going over like a half globe thing. That's an incredible shot. That it's motivated and it looks incredible. It's beautifully green and lush, and it's just really amazing shot.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Dude, we got to talk about what probably is my favorite aspect of this film, even after 22 years.
I know what it is. I know what it is. It's Pruitt Taylor Vince being in the film and not being a creepy weirdo.
Dude, Heavy. Go watch Heavy. I just talked about that, man. It's unbelievable. No, it's Howard Shore's score.
Dude.
It's fucking so awesome. That's so like my new writing music now.
It's so funny to me that Howard Shore is known for like the Hobbit movies and like, he's done every fucking Cronenberg movie, but he's largely thought Nobody's Fool and like I think Jack, Mrs. Doubtfire and stuff. Like he kind of does some fairly good but somewhat straightforward scores.
Yeah,
not this.
Yeah,
this is some bizarre, weird. It almost made me think of, and maybe it's because it starts off with a desert, so that could be a trigger there. But Zimmer's score for Dune and how it just was like this smashing together of sounds, like to make this soundscape. It's almost not music. I feel like what Howard Shore is doing with this, it's one of the, I think it's one of the most arresting works of his career.
Yeah, he manages to duplicate the tone of the film, which is like beauty and chaos, with these car horns and this brass and all the shit just so cacophonous. I forgot completely how good that it melds with everything and plays on its own. It's really cool just to listen to.
I'll have to listen to it on its own. It really in a movie that's full of like in your face shit. This stands out. So
the cinematographer is Paul Laufer. I don't know how much you looked into him, but
I did not.
Nothing. Like he did Orbison's Drive All Night video, which is one of my favorite videos. But other than that, it's like a Cindy Crawford workout video like a couple years before this.
Wow.
That's not a joke.
Well, Tarsum Singh did a lot of commercials between Losing My Religion and his first feature film, which is this. So I'm guessing he made buddies with him somewhere during that process, probably. And then the guy either didn't want to get further into the field, or maybe something happened with them, or who knows, because it's hard to think that like someone could shoot this and not have much of a career afterwards. Cause it's, I mean, whatever Singh is doing, he couldn't have done it without the man whose name you just said that I didn't bother to look up.
Did you see The Fall?
I've never seen The Fall. Actually, the only other Tarsum Singh movie that I've seen was Selfless, and I didn't even know it was his. I just, for some reason, I've just, as much as this kind of floored me when it came out, I really purposefully just wasn't that interested in his other stuff. I think I've kind of felt like, I don't know, maybe, I mean, by that point, by the time The Fall came out, because that was 8 years later, I was well aware of the heavy borrowing and was maybe less impressed by that point or something. I don't know. I don't know why I didn't watch it.
And people, to his credit, people aped on him too, and we're kind of like doing his thing. So every movie looked like a fucking Dior ad or whatever the hell is going on in these sequences. So story-wise, man, like in the beginning, Catherine, she is trying to get this boy out of his state. Okay.
Yeah, these billionaires have like funded this entire thing.
Yeah, and she fails. And that's one of the things I always kind of wondered about. Like, you're going to set up your main character and have them be super good at their job, and yet she doesn't succeed in the beginning. So now we're like, oh yeah, she's going to be the person to help Carl out or whatever. It's
wild. I mean, we see her return. Well, so at the end of the film, doesn't she bring Edward into her world?
I think they had to go and reshoot that because test scientists were like, "Where the hell is that kid?" And did she not even did she not even help him?
Because I kind of I don't imagine the program continuing on after one of the people involved dies during it.
Second trial.
Let's say sweep that under the rug.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I'm kind of blanking. Does it? How does the film end? Does she return to Edward? Does it show her?
She goes to the same like desert place, which I assume
that's not
is
her mind.
is
That's
Edward's.
his. Yeah,
that's what I thought. So I don't know. I
guess
why the fuck do they call him Mr. E? Like, he has a code name? What the fuck is going on here?
Well, that was. So there's a few flourishes happening scripturally around that point that are really dumb. That being one of them, Mr. E. And then this other thing where like they have this code phrase that never gets repeated again.
Oh my God.
Where it's like a well-known children's rhyme. Like, you don't fucking make a secret code on something that everybody knows and learned growing up. What are you doing?
Yeah. Is Dylan Baker's password on that system 1, 2, 3, 4? Is that how you get into this thing?
It's enjoyable to go back and watch it and be like, oh, Dylan Baker, oh, Jake Weber, oh, Dean Norris. You know, there's a lot of people that kind of that did pop in. James Gammon. You know, there's a surprisingly strong supporting cast that we don't get too much of. People went on to do other things.
Jake Weber as Gordon Ramsay. That's literally his name in this movie.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah,
I mean, he's just such a generic, like nothing character. But
that first start, I timed it too. I hit pause. I'm like, all right, this has got to be like 10 minutes. 36 minutes in is actually like when this actual story starts getting underway and like the whole plot comes into question.
Yeah, the whole first act. I actually, in some ways think that the first act is stronger than the rest of it, because the rest of it is all carried by visual. It's all there's really not a lot happening. She goes in, she comes back out, she has a conversation, she goes back in, he kidnaps her, Vince Vaughn goes in, the end. Whereas the beginning, it feels like a climax. Like you're like thrown into this movie, and it's all very fervent, and like, you know, you're like, oh, shit's really moving along at a fast clip here. Like this is like, it's maybe not super original, but it's paced kind of interestingly, I think, because you're like, oh shit, we're already like getting like, we're seeing all of this. Like we're like, this should be the end of the movie in the first 20 minutes. So I actually really like the first act quite a bit. I kind of wish we had more time with real world Carl Strager, whatever.
Because it's urgent. It's a very urgent first act, whereas the last part,
languid.
No, the girl who we don't even know her fucking name or anything about her in the cell is not going to die.
She smokes weed and hangs out in her underwear. We know that. She smokes weed.
No, not J-Lo. We know less about her. The victim. It's like, no build up. Like, you see like a conversation with her and like whoever from like far away. So it's just random victim in the cell might die. We know she's not going to die.
You know what's really disturbing in this movie is watching the first victim drowned to death that they have video footage of. So it's disturbing alone watching that when she's like calling for her mommy and daddy and shit. But then it shows like everybody sitting around a boardroom table watching this and then just kind of casually sitting there like watching it like, oh,
dude, not even that. Done. Casually sitting there deciding if they should go forward with this only idea to save this person's life. What's the debate?
Yeah, I don't know. And then there was that one creepy bald guy that was in the game, kind of hiding around the background.
Pops up.
He just pops in. I'm not James Redhorn. I'm the other guy.
Explain this technology. Get that bald guy from the game in here. Come on, dude. Yeah, it's strange. Where do we go from here?
So we haven't talked about Jennifer Lopez, excuse me. We haven't talked about her performance much. This was, I think this was between this, Selena came out in 95, I want to say 95, 96. I think that's what really blew her up and made her kind of a household name, but she didn't do a ton after. Like there's some stuff that she did like U-Turn, but it wasn't like Anaconda. That was a pretty big hit. You're right. Anaconda was a pretty big hit, but still that was an ensemble. There wasn't like anything. It was like starring Jennifer Lopez. This was probably the first thing where like, cause this was basically a three-hander. And so I think it definitely helped her career quite a bit. I mean, it's not her first starring role, obviously Selena, but it seemed like it was a milestone in her career.
Sure. I mean, it's a couple years after Out of Sight, which I think she's fantastic in. I love her in Out of Sight. And that going back, like, I like her in this role. She's soulful. Yeah. I definitely could have used more. Like when Vince Vaughn is like telling her the story, like trying to get her out of her shit with the bed, like. I didn't remember them talking about that in the beginning. Did you? Where is this brother shit coming from? Did I go to the bathroom? Like, it was tossed in.
That's completely tossed in. I don't know where that is not discussed. We don't know how he knows that.
Right.
I know that there was another version where he's like yelling about her having abortions that they cut that out instead.
And if there's like, what is there, like 40 hours, like there wouldn't have been time for like, at what point did she relay this horrible tragic story about her son to him before?
I guess
like, this whole thing
he's an FBI agent, so he looked it up on the car ride over. I don't know. No, you're right. It doesn't make any sense. And her character, I mean, like that's one of the few moments that we do get some insight into like what motivates her and where she's coming from, because I mean, like she does a great job of being like, okay, here's a really flat Madonna character who all she does is care. And be kind. And she does a good job of like putting life into that and making it feel like a real person, even though we're not really getting a lot of motivation or layers unpeeled here with her.
Right. That's exactly right.
Where we
And
do get a ton of layers unpeeled with a grotesque serial killer, because that's fascinating, I guess. But we're not going to delve into her.
and there's missed opportunities, man. Like you don't really get the sense that even like little Carl knows where, I'll just say, the victim is. Like her mission is to go in there and pry this information specifically out of little Carl. It's not really to save little. My impression is this guy is beyond saving. We need to just get to the truth, get the fuck out of here. So we end up in like the.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I'll call it an Armageddon situation, where in Armageddon they send like drillers to the asteroid instead of just training astronauts how to drill. It's the same thing here. Like you've got a certified hotshot FBI agent whose job is to find clues and get the truth, and yet you don't send Vince Vaughn in there immediately. He could have probably figured this shit out in like 5 minutes.
He does figure it out in about 5 minutes once he's in there. But
you're right, he does.
But I'm still not 100% sure what clue he gets.
He sees on like the wall of the God's palace. Okay,
Yeah.
He sees this fucking insignia that's on the hoist, and then he calls Dean Norris and he's like, "Figure out where that fucking thing came from."
Oh, so
that's
that's
the place.
That's what he thinks of.
Yeah,
okay.
but
so which, as you say, they could have just investigated that on their own without ever going into his mind. Like the whole thing is a detour. If they'd done regular procedural work, they could have done it earlier.
Regular procedural work is all you had to do. You do it on the fucking dog, like I said, but you don't look at this shit. And not only that, dude,
interested in that story. Tarsev's like, no, there's no capes in that story.
And not only that, though, but like, oh fuck, do I get into this?
Yeah.
Don't regret it tonight.
Just fucking get it out.
They basically send in this beautiful woman as bait, and I don't like this idea at all. A, because it fails, and she falls victim to his prowess.
Yeah.
It needs to be saved by Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
It's just very yucky. And like he goes in there, starts making out with her. What just for like probably a clip in the trailer? Come on, dude.
Yeah, she does it to him, but yeah, he's
into it.
Well, yeah. That's the weird kind of sexual romantic tension between them is so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. We don't need that, but that's Hollywood. They're always going to have to almost always going to throw this in there, even when it doesn't make a lick of sense. They spent like 6 hours together, if that, most of it in different rooms while she's unconscious.
Yeah.
Am I right?
It's silly. Like, I don't know what she achieves in this story. Like, I don't understand this. It looks a dog. Really cool.
She gets a dog out of the whole thing, which is
an accomplice to murder.
Well, hey, let's let Valentine off the hook there. He can't help
until he gets
trained.
His next victim.
He himself was not eating flesh or attacking women or anything. He just laid over and played dead for a treat, like a dog does. He had no idea. Let's let him off the hook, so to speak. You know what? Speaking of hook, I mean, I watched the Closer video today. Even the fucking like hanging shit, like the levitated in space shit, is in Closer. Like It's like almost the whole movie is in the Closer video. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Except
Step
for
inside Trent Reznor's mind. Come on,
Mark Romanek's mind.
Yeah, dude, Makaluk. They have like 3 like instances where there's like this creepy nursery rhyme illusions going on. Nothing done with them. No symbolism within the dream world. Like nothing.
Yeah, it's the script feels pretty stepped on. And it feels very generic. There is, but there's enough happening where it's entertaining. I mean, the ticking clock of the girl in the cell itself, which it's kind of weird that they went with that as the name of the movie, because like that is
that too.
It's I guess the cell is the brain. You're stuck in a prison of your mind. I'm sure there's some whatever going on there, but that whole thing it's creepy and it's suspenseful and it works. And like the way that the water shoots and then turns off, the way that there's food and water in a bathroom there, like it's all great. That's terrifying. Like that's a whole very terrifying. And the way that she fucks up the thing and actually speeds things up by trying to get out. I thought that for being like the B plot that's supposed to be important, I think that she did a pretty good job. And as I understand it, Tarsem Singh was really unhappy with Tara Subkoff whose career ended after this movie. This was the last movie that she did because she was blacklisted by Harvey Weinstein. She was one of the people that came out as an accuser. Yeah, that motherfucker. I mean, she worked for like 10 years and then she couldn't find work after this. This was the last thing she did.
But yeah, dude, there's so much. Not only is there so much like Thomas Harris Manhunter stuff in this first chunk,
like,
if
and
read,
7,
and 7. But if you've read Hannibal, like the novel Hannibal, which I could not wait for before that movie came out, it's one of the most fucked up novels you'll ever read because it talks about the.
I can actually tell when your internet's going to go. You start getting all choppy and weird now.
Oh, shit. You're back. I'm back. The novel by Thomas Harris, Hannibal, talks about the Mind Palace. And it essentially is like a better version of The Cell because you get to see inside of Hannibal Lecter's mind and why he does things and how he can access different personalities and do all this really cool stuff. And you've got this movie here that comes out like a couple years before that book is released. And it's a really cool opportunity. Like, what would it be like to get inside a killer's mind?
Well, isn't that a Dreamscape? Isn't that what's called? Or Mindscape? What's that?
I read a little bit about that. What is that?
I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I read about it in preparation for this. I'm like, so it doesn't surprise me. There's another movie that is being borrowed from here.
Yeah.
Getting inside a killer's mind somehow. But it's not, it's no Lawnmower Man.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it's not even Virtuosity. But yeah, I don't know, dude. It's like very like Jungian 101 type psychology going on here with this shadow self business. It's very like amateur hour stuff. And they should have given us more. Like I walked out not really knowing what it would be like to be a serial killer and to
that's a good thing.
One. And that's kind of definitely is, but like there was an opportunity there to kind of put you in a kind of a weird headspace. No pun intended.
Don't they? I mean, I feel unsettled by the movie.
Creepy images, but like, what are they telling me about the psyche of people like this?
Oh,
nothing.
Like,
they're into weird stuff. Nothing.
They're not. I mean, it's not really interested in being. It's not interested in being a realistic depiction of serial killers or psychosis or anything like or like that. It's interested in interesting images. I mean, that's what the man did as a, and there's a lot of directors that still come out of that field of making music videos, even though people don't watch them like they used to. There's that's still a breeding ground for the directors of the future. But you watch Losing My Religion, and there is a story borrowed from Gabriel Garcia Marquez, but whatever.
Sure.
But there is a story to it, but in a lot of ways, it's just images. It's just like it's the plot is very secondary. It's all just kind of driven by images, and that's what he's doing on a grander scale here. I mean, I think a lot of it works because the images look great. Sometimes they're from something else,
and you can do that, man. Like every Terry Malick movie is nothing but images. There's no story.
Yeah.
But for Tarsem to have beautiful images, but like a shitty paint by number first draft story, that's where my problem is.
Yeah, I'd almost rather that than where Terrence Malick's stories have been going of late. Lots of people standing around staring at water. But yeah, it's hard to forgive this extremely tried and true script. I mean, it's as prosaic as they come.
Pretty much.
Should we do our last thoughts here?
We should jump into it, man.
You go first.
We've got a movie that definitely had the ability and was extremely successful at inspiring filmmakers, creeping audiences out, and igniting a new passion for this genre in 2000. The problem is it just cannot still do it, man. I mean, I watched this and I've just seen it done so many times before. And when you dig into things, this heavy homaging, like we talked about, it's problematic. It's problematic to the point that it's just a director reading a recipe and making an okay meal, and not creating something himself or herself. So yeah, I gotta tell you, man, we've got some really cool things to look at, interesting ideas, but none of it is really recapitulate it, and it just doesn't hold up for me, man. It's not the same movie I thought it was when I saw it in theaters twice.
I had declined in my estimation of this movie over the years. I was really blown away when it first came out, but had come to feel like it was lame and too heavily sourced from other stuff. And even though I wasn't that familiar with a lot of it, it still kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. So I was kind of like going in thinking like, well, I'm not gonna think this holds up, is what I was thinking when I went in to watch it. But as I said, I was actually surprised by the first act, because when you think of the movie, you typically think of the second, third acts. But sure, I was pleasantly surprised with the first act. And I do think that, again, Eiko Ishioka's costume design here is so compelling to look at. The set design, which I should have looked up that person's name, but the whole production design looks incredible. And lastly, dude, fucking Vincent D'Onofrio is incredible in this movie. I am going to say it holds up, not as a good movie, because it's severely flawed in all the ways that we've detailed, but solely for watching Vincent D'Onofrio play with this and do the fucking weird, like the somersaulting thing, like the headstand thing, and like just all the weird operatic shit that he's doing here, and like getting full slow-mo and like beautiful regalia and like colored contacts and all this stuff. It just looks so cool. So as a big Vincent D'Onofrio fan, for that, I think it's one of the performances of his career. I really do. And so for that reason, I'm going to say it's worth revisiting. It's not the kind of thing that you're going to need to see over and over again. And I'm not impressed by Tarsem Singh at all anymore, but I am impressed by Ishioka and whatever her name is, and Vincent D'Onofrio. Oh yeah, and that Howard Shore score, Ishioka. Check her name. And the Howard Shore score. You're right. So there's a few things here that I think are really great. Vincent D'Onofrio, or Vince Vaughn. Two Vincents. Vince Vaughn is pretty underwhelming in this. I think that Jennifer
Lopez
gonna
stop either. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah. Jesus. Yeah. Jennifer Lopez does surprisingly good with it, but yeah, D'Onofrio is a king, man. So there we go.
There it is, just in time, man.
There's our guy. Hey, Mike.
You're back.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
Yeah, you always got to switch it.
We have a set order.
You guys are you guys are creatures of routine. I appreciate that.
We did it.
All right. Hey.
We talked about that movie you didn't watch.
Yeah.
And I popped in here and there, but I made sure that I didn't hear anything specifically where it would be like, uh-oh. So I'm good.
Stay tuned next week when Mike will give us his abbreviated sentiments on the film.
No, I'm gonna do a whole 45 minutes by myself on the cell.
Hold on, guys. Like, we're doing quarantine viewing picks, 45-minute edition on me.
That's right. Yeah, hell yeah. Good job, guys. Well done. That's a fine effort here on the cell. We hope you enjoyed this show. Don't forget.
We do.
5-star reviews and all that stuff. Come on. Help the show out. You like what we do here? We got something here. We're not terrible. We don't just agree with each other universally on everything. We have opinions, which I think is cool. So, for next week's show, it's my turn to pick. Feels good. Last time I picked Bull Durham, I think. That was my last selection.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about it. I'm glad we did that movie, but it felt kind of weird. I'm looking back, like, that movie's odd. It just seems odd to this show in a way I can't really relate to you guys. I don't know why.
I don't either, but I thought it made sense to do it, but all right.
No, it does make I don't know, it's strange. It's just so very odd. So
it is odd.
I got a whole list here. I've been thinking it over, and so what I've done here is I originally had a list of a few different, the quarantine viewing picks list. I've started my favorite movies list, which has been building over the last few weeks. So that's fun.
That is fun.
Yeah, because it is just better to have it written down for all time, because there's so many things I forget about. Little things, too, like smaller movies in a period of time that I was really, really into that I would probably put on my list, but I just would forget about unless someone told me otherwise.
Okay.
All right. So next week we're doing...
So this one though, I don't know if it's it's not one of my. I put it on the favorite movies list.
But it's not one of your favorite movies.
I know I know it sounds stupid when I say it out loud like that. I saw it in the theater when I lived in Colorado in late 2010/11. And I saw it with a girl, and I remember when it was over, she was like, well, you really hated that, didn't you? Like, it was annoying how much she was telling me how much I hated it after we would just finished watching it, walking out of the theater. I'm like, why do you keep saying that? No, but she was like trying to make it a reality. It was very odd. Things didn't work out. That was a fluke,
You don't say.
It didn't work out. But I thought, what's up with this movie? Because I don't know. I'm sure you guys have seen it, but I've never heard you guys talk about it. So let's do 2010's Edward Zwick directed.
Oh boy.
Love and Other Drugs.
Oh my God, Mike. Okay.
No, I've never seen it.
I'm sure you have. It's got Jake Gyllenhaal and Anne Hathaway.
I know,
and
I'm
your
aware.
favorite Oliver Platt.
I've never seen it. I'm aware of it, but no, I never watched it.
Wow. Okay.
All right.
Well, that's exciting. Wow.
I guess.
Well, I mean,
I prefer it when I've seen them because then I can tell if it actually holds up or not. And I do watch a lot of movies, but I guess I don't see them all.
but this is a Oliver Platt movie for you too, so that's exciting.
I didn't know he was in it. I didn't know that. If
Yes,
I'd known that,
he's-
perhaps I would have ran to the theaters.
Dude, real quick, you've been watching The Bear on Hulu?
Is he on that too?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
no.
this is a cool show, man. He's on
Yeah,
it.
it's been getting good reviews. It's on my radar, but I haven't dug in yet.
Yeah. It's
Speaking of really good show, I've heard The Old Man is really, really good with Jeff Bridges on
Oh.
FX.
I'm an
People have been
episode or
saying that.
two behind, but I'm watching it and liking it.
okay.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll have to check that one
And
out.
other drugs.
Yeah, so we're going back to 2010. It's a rom-com, or is it not? I don't know. We'll find
don't know.
out. Who knows? Jake Gyllenhaal and Anne Hathaway lead the cast. Next
All
week,
right.
Love and Other Drugs. Maybe that woman who I watched it with will watch the show, and she'll
Maybe
come on and
she
be
will.
like, you know what? I don't know
Text
why I
on the
was
show.
so...
You hated it still. You hated it still, right?
I
You
did.
still hate it. You
She
still hate it.
shows up in the chat.
You still hate it,
Just
right?
be honest about it after all these years, Mike. Come on. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All
It's
right,
been
cool.
fun. We hope you enjoyed the show. Eric, Travis, Michael.
Boy,
Good times.
God. Me
It's
God,
from the cell.
boy.
I feel like that's from the cell. It's got
That
to
is
be.
from the cell.